The morning sun poured through the diner windows, painting everything in soft gold. The smell of coffee filled the air. Plates clinked gently, and quiet music played from an old radio behind the counter. Clara moved carefully between tables, her smile calm and genuine. She wasn't fast, but every movement showed care. Outside, the town was just waking up. Inside, a man and his little boy sat at the corner booth. The man, Ethan Walker, wore a suit that looked out of place in the simple diner. He was quiet, distant, yet polite. His son Noah sat beside him, silent and watchful. The boy never spoke, not a word, though his eyes seemed to hold 1,000 thoughts. Clara noticed them the first time they came in. The man always ordered black coffee. The boy always had pancakes but never touched them. Something about the child's stillness made her heart ache. She didn't know their story, but she felt drawn to the boy's silence. As she poured coffee into Ethan's cup, she glanced at Noah. He stared at his fork as if lost in another world. She bent down slightly and whispered with a soft smile, "Do you like pancakes?" Noah didn't reply. He blinked, unsure, then looked down again. Clara didn't push. She just nodded kindly and went back to her work. But Ethan noticed. He always noticed the way people looked at his son, either with pity or confusion. Clara's look was different. It held patience, not judgment. When they left, Clara found a small napkin under the cup. On it was a simple word written in neat handwriting. "Thank you." She smiled. The next morning they returned. The same booth, the same order, but this time, Clara placed a tiny wooden toy car beside Noah's plate. "You can keep it," she said softly. The boy held it, studying the wheels. Ethan wanted to object, but something stopped him. It was the first time in months he saw his son react to someone new. He didn't know why he came back every day after that. Maybe it was the calm of the diner. Maybe it was the warmth in Clara's voice. Or maybe it was something in the way Noah looked at her. Curious, safe. Ethan didn't believe in miracles anymore. He believed in money, control, and silence. But that morning, when his son smiled faintly for the first time in years, he felt something shift deep inside him. The next week, Ethan and Noah became regulars. Clara learned that Noah didn't speak at all. His world was made of gestures, glances, and silence. Most people gave up trying to reach him, but Clara didn't. One morning, she brought a small box filled with picture cards. "I used these with my cousin," she told Ethan gently. He didn't talk for a long time either. Ethan hesitated. "You don't have to," he began, but Clara was already showing Noah the cards. She pointed at a picture of an apple and said softly, "Apple." Then she pointed at the real apple slice on his plate. "Apple." Noah looked between the two, curious but quiet. Clara smiled and repeated the word slowly, "Apple." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the boy's lips moved, soundless, but real. Ethan's breath caught. Clara didn't cheer or clap. She simply smiled, patient as ever. "That's okay," she whispered. "We'll try again tomorrow." Ethan couldn't explain what he felt. It wasn't pity or hope exactly. It was something fragile, something he hadn't felt since his wife passed away 3 years ago. He began to watch Clara closely, not with suspicion, but with quiet gratitude. She never made his son feel broken. She spoke to him like he understood, like he mattered. Every morning, Noah grew more open. He started to look up when Clara approached. He even reached for her hand once, small fingers brushing against hers. Clara froze, then smiled warmly. Ethan saw it. His chest tightened. That single gesture said more than words ever could. Outside the diner, the world kept spinning. Inside, something gentle was growing, slow but certain. It became their routine. Every morning at 8, the black car stopped outside the small diner. Ethan and Noah walked in, sat at the same booth, and waited for Clara. 2 other customers. It was nothing special. To Ethan, it was everything. He watched from his seat, silent but observant, as Clara taught Noah new words every day. Sometimes it was car, sometimes sun, sometimes smile. She never rushed him. She let him explore, touch the cards, even draw his own pictures with crayons she brought from home. Noah began to respond, not with full words yet, but with sounds, gestures, laughter. Ethan hadn't heard that laughter in years. It was soft and pure, like music he had forgotten. One evening, after a long day at his office, Ethan returned to the diner alone. The lights were dim, the place nearly empty. Clara was wiping tables, her hair falling loose around her face. "You're still here," Ethan said quietly. She smiled. "I close up most nights. It's peaceful after everyone leaves." He hesitated, then said, You've done something I thought was impossible. My son, he's changing." Clara shook her head gently. "He just needed someone to listen differently." Ethan looked at her, studying her face under the soft light. There was no pity in her eyes, no desire for anything in return, just kindness. "Why do you care so much?" he asked softly. She looked down at the rag in her hands. "Because I know what silence feels like. My father stopped talking after my mum died. For years, I tried to get through to him. Sometimes, all people need is patience." Her words hit something deep inside Ethan. He saw in her the quiet strength he once admired in his late wife. He left that night feeling something unfamiliar, something that both scared and comforted him. The next morning, when Noah said a sound that almost resembled Ma, Ethan froze. Clara's eyes softened, understanding what it meant. The diner filled with light that morning, and for the first time, Ethan let himself smile without holding back. That night, Clara sat alone in her small apartment. The walls were thin, the furniture second-hand, but the room felt warm. On the table were papers, crayons, and picture cards she made for Noah. She drew a sun, a dog, and a heart. Under each, she wrote the words in large letters. She wanted to help him say them one day. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "Thank you." He smiled again today. It was signed, Ethan. She smiled softly, typing back, "He's trying his best. You should be proud." Far across town, in a large mansion filled with silence, Ethan read her message again and again. He had everything money could buy, yet that small message filled a space nothing else could. Days turned into weeks. Noah's progress continued. He started forming small sounds, almost like words. Ba, ga, ma. Clara clapped quietly each time, never making a big scene. She knew small victories mattered most. One afternoon, Ethan invited her to sit with them. "You don't have to serve today," he said. "Just join us." She hesitated, then said. For the first time, they talked about life beyond the diner. Clara told him she wanted to study child development but had stopped school to support her father. Ethan listened quietly, his mind already turning. He had power, resources, and influence, but she had something he couldn't buy: compassion. As they left that day, Noah waved to Clara and said something soft, almost a word. Clara froze. Did he just? Ethan nodded, his eyes glistening. He said bye. She covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes. Noah laughed shyly, proud of himself. It was the first real word he had ever spoken. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He walked through his silent house, thinking of Clara's patience, her simple world, and the peace she brought to his son. He made a decision that would soon change her life forever. The next morning, Ethan and Noah arrived earlier than usual. Clara was wiping down tables when she saw them come in. Ethan looked different that day. No suit, no tie, just a soft smile. Noah ran ahead, clutching his toy car, and sat in their usual booth. Ethan waited until Clara came over with their coffee. Then he handed her an envelope. "What's this?" she asked, confused. "Just open it," he said. Inside was a letter printed on fine paper. It was an invitation to visit the Walker Center for Child Communication, a new foundation being established in the city. Her name was listed as a founding coordinator. Clara looked up, speechless. "I'm starting a program for children like Noah," Ethan explained quietly. "A place where they can learn, feel safe, and be understood. I want you to help lead it." Clara blinked, her hands trembling. "Me? But I'm not trained. I don't have a degree." Ethan smiled gently. "You have something no degree can give: patience, heart, understanding. The rest we can teach." She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. "Why me?" He looked toward Noah, who was now softly humming to himself. "Because you believed in my son when I couldn't." Tears filled her eyes. For years, she had served strangers coffee, dreaming quietly of doing something meaningful. Now, the chance was right in her hands. Ethan stood and said softly, "Take your time. Think about it. But no, this some lives only change when someone dares to care." As he left, Clara sat down, clutching the letter. She looked through the diner window and saw the black car drive away, sunlight glinting off its surface. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, it felt like it was calling her by name. *. 2 months passed before the grand opening. Clara had accepted Ethan's offer, though she had hesitated for weeks. Leaving the diner felt like leaving a part of herself behind, but she knew this was her chance to make something lasting. The Walker Center stood on a quiet street lined with trees. It was filled with bright rooms, soft rugs, and toys for learning. The walls were painted in gentle colors. On one wall, Clara had placed a hand-drawn sign that read, "Every word begins with love." On opening day, families gathered with their children. Some were quiet like Noah once was, some restless, some afraid. Clara greeted each one with a warm smile. She knelt when she spoke to the children, making sure they felt safe. Ethan watched her from a distance, his heart full. He had spent years hiding behind his wealth, trying to fill emptiness with numbers and meetings. But watching Clara now, he saw what real healing looked like. When it was time for the ceremony, he walked to the front and spoke into the microphone. This center is not just for children. It's for parents who have felt helpless. It's for families who need hope. And it began with one woman's kindness. He looked toward Clara, who stood beside Noah. She blushed softly, lowering her head. Then came the moment that would stay with Ethan forever. Clara crouched next to Noah and whispered, "Would you like to say something?" The boy held the microphone tightly. His lips trembled. For a long moment, the room was silent. Then a soft sound escaped his mouth. Thank you. It was quiet, uncertain, but real. Ethan froze, his throat tightening. Clara smiled, tears welling in her eyes. The entire room clapped gently, careful not to startle the boy. Noah looked up at his father and smiled, a full, bright smile. Ethan walked forward and lifted his son into his arms. "I'm proud of you," he whispered. Clara wiped her eyes, unable to stop smiling. The noise in the room faded into a gentle hum, like sunlight filling a space that had once been dark. That night, after everyone left, Ethan found Clara standing near the door. "You did this," he said softly. She shook her head. "No, we did this." He smiled, looking at her the way someone looks at the first sunrise after a long storm. For the first time, both of them felt like they had found a home. Weeks after the opening, the center grew busier every day. More families came, bringing children who had once been silent and afraid. The laughter that filled the rooms felt like music. Clara worked long hours but never complained. Each day she found new joy in seeing a child speak their first word. Sometimes, when she was alone in her office, she would smile quietly and think of the diner, of pancakes, and of the small boy who started it all. One evening, when the last family left, Ethan invited her to the garden behind the center. The sun was setting, coloring the sky in gold and pink. Noah ran ahead, chasing butterflies with his toy car in hand. "You've changed both our lives," Ethan said softly. Clara shook her head. "You and Noah changed mine." He smiled. "You could have ignored us. You could have just done your job and walked away, but you didn't." She looked at him, eyes gentle. "Sometimes people don't need saving. They just need someone to see them." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then thank you for seeing us." They sat in silence for a while, watching Noah draw circles in the dirt with a stick. The sound of evening birds filled the air. Then Noah turned toward them and said, "Clara." It was the first time he had ever said her name. The word was soft, but clear. Clara covered her mouth, tears spilling over. Ethan smiled, his eyes wet. "He said your name," he whispered. Noah looked between them, confused by their tears but smiling anyway. Clara knelt and hugged him tightly. "You did it," she whispered. "You found your voice." Ethan stood quietly, watching them in the golden light. For the first time in years, his heart felt whole. Later, as they walked back inside, he paused at the small plaque near the door that read, "For those who learn to speak through kindness." He looked at Clara. "That should have your name beneath it." She smiled softly. "It already does. It's in every voice that begins here." The air grew still, filled with peace. Ethan reached for her hand, not with urgency, but with gratitude. She didn't pull away. In the distance, Noah laughed, running across the grass, his voice echoing softly. The night settled gently around them. The world outside was still loud and restless, but here, in this quiet garden, everything was simple, clear, and good. Clara looked up at the fading light and whispered, "Sometimes, all it takes is one word." Ethan answered softly, and one heart willing to listen. The scene faded to calm music, the last sound being Noah's laughter, bright and free, carried gently into the warm evening air.